here? Like, yesterday we were actually having that conversation. He's like, I just don't understand how, like, nobody even asked that. Like, why are we here?
No, I ask that all the time. What's the point of it all?
Yeah. What are we here for? Where did we come from? All
Mhm.
these things. So he's like really, really, into that, wants to have a conversation with an alien. I asked him, like, have you tried, meditating and connecting with one? Because I have had I actually had a friend who during a ayahuasca ceremony, you sit in meditation for like several hours, and he supposedly met with like another entity who was basically going through the same journey he was at the same time, and they somehow met like in the middle of the universe. You believe
Mm,
in such things. And
that's right.
yeah, but I do believe like we carry the universe within us, right? Like all the atoms from the beginning of time. So I do feel like we have the answers within us. So whatever questions we have, we can dive in and seek them if that's what, you wish to do.
I know. Tell him if you want to speak with an alien, he can come to me. Oh my God. Like the simplest thing, the best, realization that I've had is that I don't seek to understand the world anymore.
I had
It's like
the same thought,
understanding
yeah.
myself is understanding the world. So I'm like, every day I'm trying to understand myself. So yeah, I hope he realized that too. Like the universe, he is the universe.
Yeah, and one thing that I thought about later is that because as he was saying that, like, I was listening to him, but like a part of me was like, I don't really care for that like anymore. Like maybe I did ask those questions before, but I
Hmm.
really do feel like that's the mind, right? Like the mind likes to solve problems, right?
Hmm.
And what's the biggest mystery of all is like, where does this all come from, right? That's like the biggest mystery of all. But it's like the mind always wants to look for problems and solve them. It likes riddles, it likes puzzles and all these things.
Hmm.
But but when you're not like working in the mind anymore, like why does there always have to be a problem, right, to be
Exactly.
solved? Like,
Exactly.
but what if there is no problem? we're just
Exactly.
we're just living,
Yeah.
there's no problem to be solved. And I feel like, to me, like I think it's there at some level. It's good to question these things, question existence and stuff, because it gets us to stop the rat race, right?
Hmm.
But it's like if you were to look at ants doing what they're doing, if the ants all of a sudden just stopped and like wondered, like, yo, why are we here? What do we do? Like, then they would kind of like stop all the things that it's kind of designed to do, right? And then it'd be like chaos or so. I don't know. Like it just they would cease, like the meaning of life in a way would get lost in thought, and then it's
Hmm.
like, to me, I feel like, we could go through, you always talk about rabbit holes. I feel like we could get lost. We could go in, we could jump in an infinite amount of rabbit holes trying to answer that question. But if we simply like just enjoyed life and embraced it and just freaking just soaked in it, like revered in it, then in the end, like let's say you die and then you find out the answer after that. Like no matter what, it doesn't matter because you fully enjoyed your life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Whereas like you looking for the answer, and then your life gets wasted away, and then you were wrong about the answer the whole time. Like it
Yeah,
comes to
yeah,
find out that, like, they say God, turns out God is like ends up being like a giant rabbit or something silly, and it's like, I thought it was this all this time.
yeah,
If you enjoyed life, you don't care.
yeah.
Like whatever, even if your beliefs were wrong, you're like, that was an awesome life,
Exactly.
you know? And
Why even create
so,
like images? Yeah, expectations. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I really think that's very important to just enjoy life and not have too much, you know, figuring out that by being you will figure out a lot of things. you know?
Amen. Yeah.
Like, yeah. And like you said, like the rabbit holes, just what if you just see everything as a rabbit hole? Everything as a
Mm.
rabbit hole. You wouldn't need to go in one and get lost in one, right? You would just see everything as a rabbit hole. You step over them.
I like
Oh,
that.
this rabbit hole. Oh, that rabbit hole. Just enjoy jumping up and down,
Like the thing
And
you were saying the other day, the Kumba, was it the the
Timon,
little
Timon.
animal that pops up?
Like, what
You're
is
just
out
jumping in and
there?
out of holes. That is so true, though. I love that because that's really the thing, right? Like people go in the rabbit holes and then they get lost in there, and you could just go on for eternity. But if you know the rabbit holes, you can just have fun jumping in one and jumping out the
Yes,
other, and like
exactly.
you're free. Yeah, you don't
I
get
like
pulled
that.
in. Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
analogy.
Because it's like you get trapped in one. It's like prisoning yourself in one
Right.
concept. Now I'm breatharian. That hole is breatharian, and I go in there, and then you just get lost because of the concept get lost in the middle somehow. So there's no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just an illusion. You go in there and it's illusion. Oh, I was
Mm.
thinking.
Illusions.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh boy, illusions. That's been one that
But when you're aware of the rabbit hole, you can have fun.
right.
Yeah.
Illusions. So what are illusions to you, Nabiha?
I mean, let's say one of the rabbit holes says, fruitarian, right? Oh, that's
Right.
the healthy thing. Go in there, blah, 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 blah. It's just a sign, right? But once you go in it, it's lost.
Mm.
It's like it's an illusion that drags you there, and once you get in the hole, if you don't come up, you just lost in there. There's no fruitarian anymore. It just becomes like a problem.
Hmm.
So that's how I see something illusion. Like you see something and then it just disappears. It's not there anymore. Basically, it's just you holding on to the idea, but there's nothing there.
And what do you mean by that in that scenario? So like you jump into the fruitarian hole, now it's
Mhm.
not there.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that?
It's
Where,
like
where'd it go,
anything
Nabiha? Where'd it go?
anything too much is bad, right?
Yeah.
Anything too much is bad. So let's say like that rabbit hole says fruitarian, go for fruits and don't kill animals and do that, right? And you go
Right.
for that, but you know that it's just okay. You have to have a balance between everything and not just like the fruits. And now you just drinking, 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 eating, eating, eating. Now you're consuming again. You have the same mindset of consuming, right?
Right.
But once you're just aware of it, and you know, like, okay, hey, that's a healthy habit. I can entertain that, and don't get like don't get lost in it,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So you know fruits, and you know, like, okay, hey, now I need to learn how to respect the fruit. I need to learn how to connect with the fruit. I need to learn how to how to find out the connection between us and the fruits, right? Instead of like, oh, that fruit is gonna make me healthy, and then it's gonna make me enlightened, and it's gonna make me this. Now you're in the rabbit hole,
Right.
right? And then you get lost in
Hmm.
that rabbit hole. The fruitarian is not going to make you higher. It's not going to make you into a different realms. It's not going to make you anything. If you haven't understood, it's the same consumption. It's the same
Hmm.
mindset, right? So when I mean like it's an illusion, it's like, okay, first when you get in it, you have to know how to what it means before you get lost in it, because everything has its purpose, right? So you can't run from the vegetables and then run into the fruits. You can run in from this and into that, and like understanding the vegan aspect also. Some people are like, okay, let me just be healthy, I'm vegan now. But you haven't understood that it's about the animals. You have to understand that killing is not okay, not because of
Hmm.
you want to feel better, but you have to understand that that chicken is equal to you. It has a family, it has a feeling, it has everything, it just doesn't speak the same language as you. So like understanding that instead of like, okay, vegan, if I don't eat meat, I'm gonna be enlightened. No, your mind is already intoxicated, right? So those
Yeah.
are the things that I call illusion.
I
You
see.
hold on to something, yeah.
So it's kind of like being blinded by the concept, you would say.
Mm-hmm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. I get what you're saying because I have seen that a lot, unfortunately, in like the people that get really drawn in by health, they get fascinated by it,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
then they get so obsessed with like, is this healthy? Is this not? Like they get so um how do you call it? Yeah, just
Caught up
just
in that. Yeah.
yeah, they get so caught up with the idea that then it becomes their biggest stressor
Mm-hmm,
in life, you know?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They eat even a fruit that is like not the most ideal fruit. They ate an avocado that has fats in it. Like, oh no, now now I broke my fat free, regimen and all these things and I've seen a lot of people through healthy habits create uh unhealthy habits, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's like they eat the healthy thing, but then they have a poisonous thought,
Exactly.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not what you put in the mouth, but it's the
The
mind
mind.
that makes it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So that's why I always say, you can change your diet. If you haven't changed your mind, you're still toxic. You're still not healthy
Yeah.
at all because it's just a mind. I have seen
Yep.
libertarians that now they are very, very, jelly, because now you become like liquid. The belly become boom, boom. Like
Boom
it's
boom.
like I don't know how to explain it, but it's not fat. It's just like water,
It's
juice.
boom boom. Jello.
Oh my god! And I'm like, I can tell who's liquiditarian, I can tell who's fruitarian, and I can tell who's like, just
By how
vegan.
much they boom boom. How much jello they have.
Oh my god! Pretty much, pretty much. And I'm like, I have seen them very lazy. Now you're drinking too
Mm,
much, and when you drink, you can't even jump up and down. You can't run. You can't be active. So now you're okay. I'm healthy because I don't eat this. I don't eat that. I don't eat that. But now you're just consuming a lot of juice, and
yeah.
that's not healthy either.
Mm,
That's not healthy
mm.
either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I know what you mean. I've seen that too, and like I think like as you were saying that, it just kind of like hit me that it's like they're taking in what you could say that they're taking in the yin, right? Like the
Mm-hmm,
soft energy. And
mm-hmm,
so it's even more important for those people to balance that out with some hard like exercise, for example, like more
exactly.
yang energy. So do something like intense that you really gotta like force through. And you're right, they get so I mean, all of us, as humans, we seek comfort,
Mm-hmm.
and so then we become so comfortable that then we kind of wither away. But we need to actually put ourselves through discomfort to grow, and that's something I keep having to remind myself because each level is a new comfort.
It is.
And each level is more like deceitful than the like I don't want to say deceitful, but like more subtle than the previous one. It's
Mm.
like for example, like you might have it like let's say at the bottom you have like hard drugs, right? It's like
Mhm.
most people know that's bad, that's an addiction. It's like, all right, I got to overcome that addiction, and you overcame the drugs, but then you don't realize that food is also an addiction. Drinking is watching TV is now an addiction, and then it's like higher levels music. Oh my God, I've been listening this like music that's so disempowering, and it's uh,
Yeah, exactly. And then
yeah,
people, who you talk to,
right.
conversation, the
Oh
topics that you
boy.
talk about, what you read, all of that is also another problem. Another, but it's not like eliminating. I don't believe in eliminating anything. I believe in the
Mm.
balance, finding that middle ground because everything exists, right? So you have to find some kind of like balance between everything. It's not like you just stop reading, just choose consciously. And it doesn't mean like, read everything you think is good because that also becomes bad, right? So you have to have that kind of balance like, okay, when I'm reading, how am I reacting? How is my feeling, towards this information that's coming in? So if you analyze the information within, I think you can just, okay, don't intake. You can read a whole book and just take a little bit of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Don't take the whole book, for example, right? And then when it comes to the music, it doesn't mean like, okay, hey, now you have to just listen to all this, spiritual music and this. That doesn't mean that. It means like, okay, find the balance. Even if you listen to some other type of music, don't internalize that. Know the differences,
Right.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it's just a balance. And then when you find that balance, you will flow through life. It won't be like any restriction. Oh, I can't have that, or I can't do this, or I can't be. You'll be flowing. You'll be
Mm.
flowing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. That's
Re-
why like it feels like you're more like carefree. That's why I always say like I don't care. Why would I worry about it? But I don't mean like I'm careless. I just mean
Mm-hmm.
like, I can't put my energy towards that so much and then I can lean more on this. I want to find that balance
Mm-hmm.
in everything. Yeah.
Finding that
Yeah.
flow. Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes some people become too restrictive,
Mhm.
and then it's like again that kind of creates the stress, right? Where it's like, if you're walking through life and you know you, you're like building all these walls for yourself. It's like you're always hitting a corner, to try to
I
get around like wherever you're
know.
trying to go. And it's like that's what a lot of them feel like. It's almost like a cage. It's got it's a hallway, so it makes you feel like because you are going somewhere, but it's
Mhm.
still like very restrictive. And that's why I've always been one to like kind of like I always wanted to cultivate the joy, the
Mm.
joy, presence, love, because like focusing, and that doesn't mean I don't, because sometimes the spiritual community is funny too, they like all love and light, it's like until somebody cuts them off on the road, they're like all that love and light goes out the window, right? So
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, but okay.
so it's like in the spiritual community, a lot of times they try to like ignore, like bypass like all the bad, like act like
Mm.
it doesn't exist. I think it's important to acknowledge that it does exist, but you
Mm.
just simply choose to focus on what feeds you. And if you
Exactly.
focus on what feeds you, you'll know, like I heard um, this one dude quoted, like he was like an NLP dude in psychology, and he said if you just focus on what's possible, you'll already know what's not. You
Yeah.
don't have to look for what's not possible. You don't have to look for the limitations. Just look for the possibilities, and in that you'll just you'll know where the limitations are automatically. And so I feel like a lot of people are too focused on limitations,
Hmm. Hmm.
instead of
Hmm.
possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even see the logic in that. Really, I can't
There,
even see
there
the
is
logic in
no
that.
logic in that. It's all
No.
emotional, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because if you look for the possibility, you will find what's not possible. But you can't look for what's not possible because
Yeah.
you will never find what's possible then.
Right.
That's backwards. Yeah. That's backwards. But I think, like, the spiritual community, what I have realized is, people would ask me, for example, oh, what do you do here? And what do you do that? And what do you do this? I'm like, I don't have names for what I do. I don't know. I'm just being,
Yeah.
okay? The thing that I'm doing. And then whatever I do, maybe somebody will call it a name or something like that. But it's like, if I want to get out of a prison, right? I can't be creating my own prison. Like, let me create mine. I'm gonna get out of society prison, but I will create my own prison. It doesn't make sense to me. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now I'm out of the prison. I'm moving freely. So now I have to just learn how to move, how to flow through everything that's like outside of the prison, basically.
Right.
So that's when you have a free mind, free thinking, free way of being. And then you have all of these restrictions around you already. How can you maneuver through them, right? I have to create that, but
Hmm.
I can create my own prison again. And then think like, okay, oh my God, I made a mistake in my own cell. It doesn't even make sense, right? Oh my God, I
They,
had a little too much juice.
they
Oh,
punish
today I broke the fast.
themselves.
Hmm.
They sentence themselves.
Exactly. And then you sentence yourself. Yeah, it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense. It doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
yeah. And well,
Yeah.
you know, on that note, that's you know, I find it interesting because you know, in a lot of you know, I feel like for a lot of people when they wake up and they realize, you know, all the atrocities, for the lack of a better word, of society and the civilization, a lot of the things that we're doing, it's a natural thing to be like, "Oh, I just want to get some land, like, you know, elsewhere with a tribe, like away from all these problems and create a new world." And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's great. And I think that like, I think it's a wonderful like vision to create, you know, to manifest. But what I've also found is that, like you said, these prisons that we create in our mind, we carry them. So what ends up happening, which I've seen in like eco villages that I've visited, you know, people go to nature. The nature's calm and stuff, so you know they get a little calmer. They're not as chaotic, right, as when they lived in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought the prison with them,
Oh,
and so they're still they're still living with a lot of that conditioning that they learned in the city. They still have it, so they still bring all the problems. They bring all the stress. It's just gone down because they're in nature. They're in a more peaceful
mm-hmm.
area, but they still bring all that baggage with them, you know. And so I would encourage people, if anyone feels like the only escape is to escape the city, like just know, I would say that you're not really trying to escape the city. You're trying to escape the
Mm-hmm.
mind. You know, you're really trying to escape the prisons that the mind created. And sometimes we always, it's like the grass is greener on the other side. We always, it's no different than the aspiring millionaire who thinks the millions are going to save him.
Wow.
We're always thinking something's going to save us, right?
I know.
Whether it's a new president or Jesus's third and fourth and fifth coming, or Muhammad or another, or just a thought, like, you know, that having this plot of land, having the oh, you know, having the right partner, right? That's a huge one.
I know.
Everyone, oh, once I find my twin flame, everything is gonna be great. It's gonna be like Pocahontas. It's gonna be like Snow White. I'm gonna sleep. He's gonna wake me up to a kiss, and there's gonna be seven magical doors running around me,
Oh
and
my
you
God.
know everything's gonna be happily ever after.
I've
You know,
heard that.
it's like, and I feel like as long as we keep having that savior mentality, that something, once we get something, whatever it is, it could be the most righteous thing ever. Once we get something, then we'll be happy. Like we're
Yeah.
always gonna be, you know, seeking it. Like the carrot, the donkey with the carrot. You put the carrot in front. We're gonna be that, you
Yeah.
know. And it's more
Yeah.
subtle in the spiritual community because we think it's more noble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's gonna be like my best self. Once I get to my best self, I'll be happy. Or
I know.
you know, once I heal all my trauma, then I'm gonna be
Yeah.
happy, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, the
Yeah.
traps, the rabbit holes. Like,
Yeah. That's the rabbit hole. That's the illusion. I see
yeah.
Jennifer said she moved back to her country to her own farm. I'm assuming that that's in Colombia. Yeah, that's nice. And were you from New York, Jennifer? Were you? I'm just assuming right now. Yeah. But you know, like you said, I had an idea while you were talking. Oh my God. It went out of my, yes, yes, yes. So everybody wants to be saved, 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 right? It's like that mentality of like, okay, if I do this, I'm gonna go somewhere. If I do this, my chakras are gonna line. If I do this, my third eye is gonna open. Like it's gonna just open. And then you have when they pass that, the spiritual community. Another thing I've noticed is like, I don't need anything. That's another one. It's like I don't need anything. I can just be, in the Himalayas and sit like this in the mountains all day long. I don't need a partner. I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need blah 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 blah. And that's not true. Human relationship is very important. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but human interaction, human relationship is very important. It's very important to experience everything in its rawest form in order for you to wake, not run from it and
Mhm.
say like, okay, now I'm like all this enlightened person, and all I need is like my own energy. I can't put my energy out. I need to reserve it here. I need all of that is another illusion. That's where we find the
Mm,
balance between everything. We have to find that balance. So it's just funny. I see a lot of people do that too. Oh, I can be by
yeah.
myself. I don't need anything. Oh, I don't need the city. I have to be just in the wilderness, or I have to be just in. No, you don't need to do that. What are you gonna learn there? How are you gonna expand your mind? You know, you have to be in the cities. You have to be in the nature. You have to be everywhere in
Yeah.
order for you to learn. The more you move around, the more you become more alive and
Mm,
aware. You know.
I love that. Yeah.
Definitely.
That is, yeah, that's a great reminder there too, you know. And a lot of times, because I have learned the most through that, right? Like when you're with people. So it's
Mhm.
like one way that I look at it, because it's not that I'm like, um, how do you call it? It's not that I'm like trying to hype up the Wing Chun, but I always use it because it's been one of my main teachers. And one thing about the Wing Chun is that at first you do the first form in it, and in the first form you're just standing still the whole time. You stay in one spot, and it's just hand movements. And the whole point is to find your center. That's the whole
Mhm.
purpose of the first form, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But then later on, you then learn to move with it. But then later on, you do what's called Chisao and Wing
Mhm.
Chun, which is when you start rolling with another person.
Mhm.
And now you have to try to keep your center while another person's trying to take it away from you. And then that's when you really test your structure. That's when
I
it
like that.
really gets strong. And so it's like, to me, that's how I see like meditation and the spiritual practices. It's
Mhm.
important to have our alone time and replenish and dive deep
Mhm.
within. But then it's like you said, then you take what you learned there and then you test it. You test it out in the waters. Once you drive again in traffic, and somebody cuts you off,
Mhm.
instead of like, this, it's like remembering to bring the practice, and that's when it gets strong. It's easy to do alone. And I do think a lot of times people it's very easy to delude ourselves and make excuses for something. Like
Mhm.
uh, sometimes we're feeling antisocial, for example. We just don't want to deal with people, and that's the truth. And we say, oh, we don't need anything, but it's that we're afraid to interact with people. We're afraid to go out into the world and get judged or whatever. And so sometimes we make really great justifications for what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, going to a mountain, uh, the answers are still all within once again. So it's like, while certain environments can help us, I feel like it's a disservice to ourselves to feel like we need to have that in order to get to the level, that
Absolutely. I
that we
agree.
want to get to.
I agree. And I think also it has, like you said, they can be afraid, you know, when people are like, oh, no, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with that. It's kind of like some kind of fear that they will get influenced by whatever. And then now they don't have that self control somehow. That's how I feel sometimes. And also, it's a lot of judgment in the spiritual
Mm,
community. And, I feel like, when you align with yourself, that judgment, you'll be free of judgment somehow. You will understand where everybody's at. You will leave them as where they at, you
right.
know? But to
Yeah.
judge and say, like, oh, this person is doing that, I can be around this person. Then that just tells you that you are the weak one and not the person. Because you shouldn't
Mm,
even be affected by it somehow.
yeah. Yeah. At the highest level, we should be, incorruptible.
Yeah. I feel like it's when I analyze something, it's just piece of me. Part of me that I'm analyzing, and it's like, okay, why am I analyzing this? If I'm like in the middle of a crowd and they all do not align with my energy, there's something within me that has that same energy. That's why I'm there in the first place.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's all about just analyzing yourself. I think Jerome asked you, is that a push hand when you were talking about the Wim Hof?
Yeah, so it's very similar to push hands, Jerome. It's I'm not it's not like I can't say like a good source for, like, I don't know push hands too much, but from the limited understanding I have of it is similar to it. With the Wing Chun, I don't know what the concept is with push hands. I forget. I think I did it once, and it's kind of like you try to push the other person back without them like pushing you out of balance.
I can give him
Um,
a good example. I can give,
uh-huh.
I can give him a good example. Have you watched The Woman King?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you seen when the woman is having when she have this thing on her when they are fighting against each other and they have this error, you know, this knife or something. She has a knife here, and then the other person is pushing, so they're pushing each other with a knife.
Ah, yeah,
So it's like a push, pull back, and then whoever that gets hurt. But it's the knife is sharp on both sides.
right.
It's just the strength of the person and the control of the other person. So it's kind of like that when I saw you doing it. But you go ahead.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a good analogy for it. Yeah, it's basically similar to that, except, you just have your extensions, right? Your arms obviously are in the
Hmm.
play. But yeah, it's, yeah, it's like that. Instead of a knife, it's two bubbles. Um, and so it's difficult to describe without, like, I wish I could draw it,
Hmm.
right? But if you imagine like two bubbles, let me hold up my phone here for a second with my legs. So if you have, like, you create a sphere, like with Wing Chun, you have uh Bong Sao and Tan Sao, but anyway, not to get too lost with the shapes. In a way, you create a defensive structure like a ball, right? And this ball, you have a sensitivity of like where a punch could be coming. You protect your center line, and so your ball is meeting the other person's ball, and through that, there's that, what you're saying, Nabiha, with the knife, you're both pushing on each other, but then you also sense where there might be leaks in the other person's bubble, and then you could strike. Because the whole purpose of it is to try to strike the other person
Mm.
without getting struck on. So a lot of times you have what in Wing Chun is called traps, where you might trap another person, both their arms with one of your arms, and take their balance away and then punch them. Um, so and with push hands, again, I'm not very familiar with it. I think I only did it once. It's like you're trying to take the other person's balance away. It's more formless, and it's like, uh yeah, it's all about the balance from what I recall. With the Wing Chun, the balance is a huge component, but you're also trying to strike the opponent. You're trying to penetrate their
Yeah.
defenses. So yeah.
So it's kind of like a mind, the strength of the mind somehow. The mind
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, it's all mind as far as I know. With the Wing Chun, they call it Nimlik, which is uh mental force, mind force. And the first form in Wing Chun is called the Little Idea, and it's basically you're learning how to move with thought instead of
Mm.
with muscles, with using muscular force. So once you're able to move with the mind, then basically like someone using muscles wouldn't really be able to stop you.
Yeah.
And so
I
that's
believe
the
that.
interesting part of it. It was developed by a woman to overpower a bigger opponent. And so you could see how with the mind, you could do that. Where with muscles, obviously a woman has less muscles proportionally speaking than a man. So it wouldn't be possible through muscle.
Hmm.
But through the mind, we got the same mind.
I know.
So it's a different thing. And so yeah, it's like it's consciously developing what we do when we're in tight situations, like when you hear about a mom picking up a car to save her child, and people doing wild feats to save others, or with something beyond them.
Hmm.
They tap into that part
Yeah.
unconsciously. With Wing Chun, you're trying to consciously learn to tap into that
I
part,
love that. I love that because I really believe that our true strength is in the mind. It really
Yeah.
is. You know, you can just see like someone that has been training and working out with these big muscles, and then you can see someone that, exercise maybe karate or some other, body workout that doesn't. need so much muscles. It's just like it's a mind, it's a
Mm,
technique, it's the way you move, you know. So
right.
yeah, so I can see that. I can see that. I don't even see muscles. Like when I see big people with big muscles, I see them as weak. I'm like, you can just drop them and they can't get up. It's like this big thing,
I'm
and
just
you can get up.
picturing you picking on a big guy. Hey, you're weak.
And then it's like, oh, running after me. No,
Yeah, well,
no, but I
to
really like,
Wayne.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying, like, I always felt like, what his name? Jackie Chan or whatever. Yeah, Bruce Lee, Bruce
Bruce Lee.
Lee, Bruce Lee.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's small but very strong, right?
yeah, yeah.
And if I see The
I
Rock
mean, that man could do
and
like
Bruce Lee,
one finger push-ups and stuff. Yeah.
hmm
You know, like what? To Wayne. Wayne is the one that trains me with the Wing Chun. You know, like when he says with like big guys with muscles, it just to him, it feels like kind of like a pillow.
mm,
Like they're big, but it's still soft. Like he could still just with his punch, he could just go in, you know? And that's what's crazy with the Wing Chun. It's like it's different than the brute force that's developed, like for example in boxing.
hmm
Like let's say you had Mike Tyson like punch a tree, it would probably create like a big dent on the tree.
hmm
But if you had like Wayne, somebody that knows this type of art punch the tree, it'll look like nothing happened to the tree, but if you look inside the tree, you'll see a whole line that went through the whole tree. So it's like
mm,
the movement, the strike is so precise. It's very like it just cuts through, you know? And
wow.
so that's why it's also that's why they call it the penetrating punch. That's the thing. When I started learning this, the actual terms started making more sense. Like why they call it a penetrating punch. It's more like a stab. It's not really like a
hmm
punch. It's like a stab, and so it just goes through.
It makes
And
sense.
that's why it's dangerous too, because you could really, and that's why the people that really know this, that like know these things so highly, they don't even want to fight. Like they would probably rather you, like they would rather you hurt them in some way than to fight you, because if they punched you, like that's internal bleeding right there. You know, like you if they hit you in the chest, like that's something's gonna happen to your heart. Like that could really like it's a dangerous you
Yeah.
know art. But because it gives you such like relaxed state of mind since I started learning it, which I'm not anywhere close to that level, but I since I started learning it, it calmed me down and brought me to like a state of relaxed presence where now I never have to fight,
hmm
you know, because like when the person sees that you're not giving them anything back, but at the same time you're not scared, you know, you're like holding your
hmm
ground firmly, but yet you're soft,
hmm
they don't even know what to think of it, and but they feel like they don't feel threatened anymore, you know, like how
Yeah.
an animal attacks because it feels threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Humans are very similar too, so when they see that you're not a threat but you're also not prey, you're not running away, you know,
Yeah.
they just stop, they just
Yeah.
stop, and you just won't
I
be in
believe
those
that.
situations. Yeah.
And I also think that, if your mind is messed up and disorientated, you won't even reach that level of strength. So
No. Yeah.
when your mind is already messed up and you reach that level, you would have killed people. But you can never even reach that level
Right.
without your mind being
Yeah.
centered and
It's
calm. So that's why, like, okay, when
beautiful.
you gain that strength, there's no way you want to hurt anybody. It's like it's the same thing as being awake. When you're awake and you know that everything is a reflection of you, there's no reason for you to point finger and say, "Oh, this person is wrong," or "This person is in wrong," because you just know, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like through it, you have to cultivate a certain amount of like humility and
hmm
righteousness that in order to unlock it, you won't be a menace to society, you know?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I love that like, it's like, yeah, I just love how nature works, you know? And all these things,
hmm
these, yeah, this genius.
My phone is about to die. It was red since we started, but now I can't even see the thing.
You
So
got an
it's kind of
iPhone, right?
yeah.
Yeah, those things are amazing with how they deal with low battery. Like I've seen people on like less than 5% and it lasts us still for so long.
Mm.
Mine's it goes from 5% to dead.
Oh, you have Android?
Yeah, I got an Android. I
Mm.
wouldn't say 5%, but it definitely goes from 3% to dead, you know? Once it
Wow.
gets low, it's not gonna live much longer. But yeah, we could end it now so that way you could use your phone in case you need it for
Yeah, no,
whatever you
I'm
got
gonna go
going
in
on.
here. I'm gonna get into this cafe and start writing, but
Mm,
then I will have it in charger while I'm doing that.
all
Yeah,
right.
now I want to be in the tropics. But yeah, nice talk. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you
it
very
was
much. You know, Kamara was ringing me right now when we were on the phone, so
oh
I had to
really?
call her back. Yeah.
Kamara, it's been a while.
Now it's different. She just cries every time she calls me.
Aw.
I know.
She can still hear you fine through the phone?
Yeah, I have to scream. What?
uh,
My Kim. Yeah, I'm gonna call her right now before I leave the car actually because I can't be screaming in the cafe.
all right.
Anyway, much love to you. Always
Yeah.
great.
Nourishing talks as always. Love, love, love. Till next
All right.
time.